welcome to the 127th episode of Movie and TV Talk. On this episode, I'm going to be discussing and giving my thoughts on the first season of Fallout. Remember, there will be spoilers, so let's get into it. Right off the bat, I thought that the first episode was absolutely terrific, and I mean that, although I thought that it just does everything right. It shows a character that will be important, it shows the bombs dropping, it shows some life in the vault as we get to know Lucy and her situation, it shows Maximus, who's Brotherhood of Steel, and what his situation is. And we get to see the Ghoul, who's a character from the beginning named Cooper, doing all this cowboy stuff, and we see his situation. The entire first episode is just devoted to telling the backstory of these characters and nothing else, and I think it's great. And it works as a great first episode, honestly. Second episode introduces us to Scientist Guy and his dog, then devotes the whole episode to bringing Maximus, Lucy, and the Ghoul together for the first time in a really epic shootout. That is, of course, after getting to see Maximus choose to let the knight he was serving under die for saying that him almost dying was Maximus's fault. Honestly, it was such a tense scene, and I loved every moment of it. But the standout was the shootout that resulted in Scientist Guy getting his foot shot off and ultimately dying at the end of the episode, and Lucy having to chop off his head. Again, though, episode 2 was just as intriguing as the first. Third episode picks up with Maximus setting his power armor up outside the market area. Brotherhood calls him over the radio, and he lies, saying that he is Titus and that Maximus died bravely. They say they're going to send him a new squire, and he says no and wrecks his radio. He goes off, gets some stuff fixed. Had to sacrifice a tooth to pay for it, though. He comes back to find raiders around his armor, and they beat him up at first, but he finishes them off. Despite not wanting it, the brother sends him a new squire, and of course he runs off and gets back in his armor just as the squire finds him. What is interesting is that from here you see that the power of being in a higher position over the squire kind of goes to his head a little bit. But we go back to Lucy, who ends up losing Scientist Guy's head to some creature in the water. Eventually the Ghoul finds Lucy and uses her as bait for the creature, but not successful in getting the head out. Two move on. Eventually Maximus and his squire show up there. Unaware of the creature, the two get waist deep in the water before realizing that something is in the water. And they get attacked by the creature. Maximus takes the brunt of it, lets his squire take cover. Of course, the two take the creature down and end up retrieving Scientist Guy's head. And we also get some glimpses into more of the past life of the Ghoul, aka Cooper, as a movie star, even doing some advertising for Vault-Tec. Another really good episode, in my opinion. Episode 4 starts with Lucy visiting one of the Ghoul's friends that the Ghoul ends up shooting and taking his body parts to be made into jerky. Then over to the folks in Vault 33 that are trying to decide on what to do with their prisoners. Back to Lucy and the Ghoul, where Lucy makes an attempt to run but can't because giant crater in the ground. Ghoul catches up and they have a fight where Lucy bites his finger off and he cuts her finger off. Back to Vault 33 where two people are talking about previous overseer that died and going through that person's stuff. Chet, who's the guy, puts a piece of clothing on which really turns the girl on. I don't remember her name. And they kiss and make out and blah blah blah. But then they make it to the bed and her water seems to break right there. I don't know. He didn't even touch her yet. But sure. Lucy and the Ghoul make it to the Super Duper Mart where Ghoul wants to trade Lucy for vials. She gets sent in and gets a new finger. Almost gets her organs harvested, but she manages to get out and find Ghoul on the ground. She leaves vials for him and walks off. While that's happening, Norm is taking food to the prisoners, and one mentions that whatever happened in Vault 32 was far from innocent. Norm tries a terminal, but gets access denied when trying to access records for Vault 32. Norm recruits Chet, and the two walked into Vault 32, and things are not good. There are words on the walls in blood saying we know the truth. Ghoul takes the vials and goes into the Super Duper Mart and eats and drinks whatever he can find until he finds a tape of a TV show that he was a star of when he was Cooper, and that was the end of the episode. Episode 5 starts with Maximus and Thaddeus just hanging out. However, that ends when Maximus decides to show Thaddeus that he's not Knight Titus, and the two fight, but Thaddeus takes the fusion core and walks off. Next day, some roaches start fucking with his armor, and then Lucy shows up and shoots them. The two talk, and she starts throwing up because radiation sickness. She ends up helping him out of the armor, though, before that, and he gives her some rat away. Back to Norm and Chet, who make their way to, who make to where Vault 32 connects to Vault 31, and there's more blood words saying we know what's in there, and some corpses by the Vault 31 door, but the two decide to head back and act like they didn't go anywhere. Maximus and Lucy chat, and the two decide to travel together based on Lucy is going to give the head to the Brotherhood if they will provide support to get her dad back, and he agrees. Back to Vault 33, where they elect Betty as the next overseer. Lucy and Maximus walk and chat until they reach a bridge with two people on the other side. Back to Norm, who is seeing that everyone who has been elected overseer in Vault 33 has come from Vault 31, like that's not suspicious. Back to the bridge, Lucy devises a strategy for them to cross, and they try, but the other two shoot Lucy and Maximus, who end up shooting first, and it turns out that the two trying to cross from the other side were fiends. Back to the vault where Norm and Chet talk about what Norm found, but the two don't get far before Norm leaves. Lucy and Maximus see a sign for Shady Sands, which sparks a conversation about the New California Republic and Reclamation Day, and how the NCR didn't work out. We also learn that in the end, Maximus is a survivor of the NCR with a small flashback. The two walk until they reach Hawthorne Medical. Lucy charges in. Maximus follows but gets trapped. Back to Vault 33, where Betty and several others go into Vault 32, which looks really cleaned up than when Chet and Norm visited. Betty says that people from Vault 33 are going to start living in Vault 32. Norm takes a moment while alone with Betty to ask what happened to his mom's Pip-Boy after she died. Betty says it was buried with the mom, and she knows because she was the one that buried the mom, same with his dad. Lucy wakes up next to Maximus and takes episode 6 starts us with Cooper, aka the Ghoul, way in the past doing an ad for Vault Tech that's like a tour of Vault 4. We see some political stuff happening here with one of Cooper's friends talking about how Vault-Tec is a private company that owns half of everything and all that. Then we go to Lucy and Maximus getting stitched up in that very same vault. Vault 4 includes people from the New California Republic now living there. Both Maximus and Lucy think something sketchy is going on there, especially when the Overseer tells them to stay away from level 12. And Lucy even gets shooed out of his office when she asks about it. Maximus was going to steal their fusion core for his armor, but they doesn't. And they give him his own room where he takes a shower and gets really comfortable. And it minorly annoys me that 6 episodes in, and only when Lucy finds the NCR flag do we get to finally hear the proper Fallout theme. But at least we get to hear it. Back to the Ghoul, who is taken by some guys in a game called the Government. That's M-I-N-T, Mint. And its president, Swirl Booker. They have a chat. The Ghoul kills his 2 sheriffs. We get this side-by-side in which Lucy and the people of Vault 4 go to some religious thing, while Cooper and the past go to a place called Hollywood Forever. The Vault 4 thing gets more weird as all the people become topless for some reason. They say some stuff, pass around things of ashes and bowls of blood for people to drink, and even Lucy is getting weirded out. And then there's a flag, and yeah, Vault 4 is definitely a cult, like Maximus originally said. Back to Cooper in the past, and he sees some woman that I don't recognize. Lucy goes back to Maximus, who at this point seems to not believe Lucy because he's just too comfortable. So she decides to venture to level 12 by herself. Finds a room with a fish eating a woman on tape. But the big thing is some rooms, or some like cryo chambers. And Lucy gets found out by the one guy down there. And Lucy tries to fight her way out, but she ends up getting captured. And we end on Maximus sitting and eating some popcorn. Episode 7 starts with two people out doing some metal detecting, and their outfits kind of look like the ones from the Fallout New Vegas picture that I always see. The two return home to find the ghoul there. He asks for the location of Moldaver, and they tell him, and he decides to shoot one of them anyway. Back to Cooper in the past, who's listening to the others speak about the end of the world. Cooper doesn't want to listen, and he and this woman get into it about the end of the world and Vault-Tec and all that. The two walk and chat about cold fusion and about how Vault-Tec bought up all the research on that. She gives him a listening device because she wants his help taking Vault-Tec down a peg. Back to Lucy being interrogated by the overseers, and they show her a video about some experiments that went wrong and some creatures, and she apparently needs to be taught a lesson, so the guards take her, and they walk past Maximus's room, and he decides to get up and do something. We go to Thaddeus, who made it to the Red Rocket, one of the few locations I actually remember from Fallout 4. Thaddeus decided to put the dog in a container and move on. Back to Lucy, who appears to be in a state of execution, but she isn't. She instead is being banished to the surface and given 2 weeks of supplies. So nice. Maximus decides to take the Vault's fusion core and busts into the scene in his armor, tossing people about despite Lucy telling him to stop. He finally does stop, and she tells him that they are setting her free. Once outside, the two chat about returning the fusion core to Vault 4, and Maximus agrees to it, even though that means not being able to use the power armor. Lucy tells Maximus some stuff about Vault 33 and her luck with strangers, and offers him a chance to come live in Vault 33 with her. When they finish their mission, Maximus tells Lucy the truth about himself and what happened in Night Titus, and Lucy doesn't really seem bothered, and still offers him to live with her in Vault 33, and he agrees. Back to Thaddeus walking with the head and enjoying some KPSS on the radio. That was a hit right there. He runs into a man with black hat that Maximus was the one who saved a few episodes ago. Thaddeus trades his fusion core for whatever stuff this guy's gonna give him, and he takes it, and it does in fact heal his foot. Back to Norm feeding some prisoners as per his job, until one day he goes in and all the prisoners are dead. Everyone in Vault 33 gets the message of who is moving to Vault 32 and who is staying in Vault 33. Ghoul makes it to Red Rocket and frees the dog that Thaddeus put in the box. Back to past Cooper, who links the listening device to the Pip-Boy. Doesn't go through with it, tosses the device, but then later goes back through the trash and retrieves the device. Back to Thaddeus, who made it to the KPSS station. He's having a chat with the dude about music, clearly doesn't understand any of it. Lucy and Maximus show up, and he tries to shoot them, but misses and steps back onto a trap that shoots an arrow in his throat, but he doesn't die because of the serum he took from the weird guy. The Brotherhood are now on their way, so Maximus takes a different head and gives it the scientist guy's head to Lucy. The two make out a bit before Lucy takes off, and Maximus goes to distract the Brotherhood. Go back to Norm, we go back to Vault 33, where Betty is making a speech to those moving into Vault 32. She also announces who Vault 32's interim overseer will be, and they open the gate, and Norm walks away. Norm goes to the overseer's terminal and hacks it to send a message to Vault 31's overseer. They ask her she's compromised and to come to 31 ASAP. Norm goes to the Vault 31 door And after waiting a little bit, it opens and he waits a bit before going in, and the door closes behind him. Norm walks a bit, but there's no one there, and the episode ends as he sees something. Episode 8 starts with Maximus being taken back to the Brotherhood. He presents the fake head, tells him that his knight is dead. Of course, they see right through his lies and are going to kill him, but the other squire is able to save Maximus. The guy tells Maximus to build a home with him in the Brotherhood. We go to Lucy, who has reached the observatory with the head where Moldaver is supposed to be. Ghoul is walking, and we go back to past Cooper giving his wife a ride to the Vault-Tec building. Some back and forth happens, but his wife goes off, and Cooper tries to use the listening device, but he can't get a signal. He then decides to just go in. Back to Lucy, who sees her dad and Moldaver there. She gives Moldaver the head, in which she takes out a device that was inside of it, which was the cold fusion. Moldaver tells Lucy something about her dad, but we go back to Norm in Vault 31, who finds some robot with a brain that attempts to poorly attack. Norm just kind of ignores it. Go back to Cooper in the past, who puts the listening device in his ears, and he hears some stuff, specifically a meeting between Vault-Tec and other company heads. Things get heated, but his wife gets them back on track. Back to Norm, who keeps walking and hits a button to find more people in pods, specifically the Vault-Tec executives. Cooper's wife tells the company heads that they can have any vault they want and do any kind of conditions and experiments they want to, and that no one has to know. Of course, the company heads spitball ideas, but one of them asks how they can deliver, and the wife says that they can be the ones to drop the bombs themselves. Back to Lucy, who learns that her dad isn't who she thinks he is, because Cooper in the past meets him in Vault-Tec. The Brotherhood of Steel is moving out for Scientist Guy's head, while Moldaver is telling Lucy about her mother, telling her that her mother had ideas that Henry didn't want known, and Lucy's mom ran away and took the children to the NCR, but when Henry came for them, she wouldn't come back. He destroyed that city. He destroyed the NCR. Henry did. She says what Lucy brought her is cold fusion. Of course, the whole time she's talking, Henry's trying to tell Lucy that Moldaver is lying, but Lucy very much believes Moldaver. Lucy asks what happened to her mother, and Moldaver looks at a ghoul sitting there, and yeah. Lucy tells Henry to give Moldaver the codes to activate cold fusion, and he does, and the machine turns on. We go back to Norm, still in Vault 31, who tries to leave, but the Overseer, the little brain robot, won't let him. The Overseer tells him he'll have to use Henry's pod if he wants to survive. Go back to Lucy, and the cold fusion machine is ready, but just before Moldaver presses the button, the Brotherhood arrives and a fight breaks out. Over the course of the fight, the Ghoul shows up and engages some of the Brotherhood. Maximus shows up and frees Henry, but she tells him that what happened to the NCR was all his fault, which doesn't make Maximus happy since, he's a survivor. Henry grabs some power armor, not a helmet for some reason, and Lucy shoots his ear, but then Ghoul shows up and Henry decides to just fly away. Ghoul tells Lucy that he knows her dad, or how he knows her dad, and that they should leave before more of the Brotherhood shows up. Lucy picks up a gun and shoots what is the remaining bits of her mom. Lucy goes off with Ghoul. Maximus wakes up a bit later. Moldaver comes back and activates the cold fusion device, sits down, and some lights come on in the distance, and Moldaver says something to Maximus about trying to stop the Brotherhood, who show up and assume that he killed Moldaver, and they celebrate him. Lucy and the Ghoul head towards Hollywood, while Henry is in the power armor and walking towards what seems to be a ruined New Vegas. And the episode, as well as the first season, ends. So what did I ultimately think of the first season of Fallout. First of all, I have to give tons of props to the props, the costume designers, the sound effect people, because everything was just spot on, straight out of the games. I could not stop looking at how good the power armor looked, how good the guns looked and sounded, how the Pip-Boy sounded and functioned, the way that the terminals worked, right down to how Norm did the hacking. Like, I remember doing that stuff in Fallout 4. Everything was just done so well and straight from the games that I loved it. Now, look, I'm not like a hardcore Fallout fan who's played every game. You know, my Fallout experience is 3 and 4. So I'm not really the lore person, so if this show does fuck over lore, I have no idea. And right now, I kind of don't care if it does. Now, I did think the storytelling and the writing was really well done. Like, there's so much mystery going on in the show that they don't reveal their hand early. They don't give you any hints either. Again, I'm sure a hardcore Fallout fan could figure it out in like an episode or two, but I couldn't. I was actually on the edge of my seat in every episode. I was paying attention, you know? You get like the raid on Vault 33 in episode 1. That asks the question of what happened to Vault 32, that leads to the question of how the raiders got in, which leads to what's inside of Vault 31, and I was interested the entire time. Plus, you have all the moving parts of how does the ghoul know Lucy by her last name, and all that intertwined with the story of Vault-Tec in the past, learning that it was them who dropped the bombs. Like, I found that all to be really well done and presented really well. The vault suits looked great, the attention to detail of the raider outfits was really great, the level of blood and gore seemed pretty fitting too, although I think the show actually manages to be more violent than the games, but that doesn't bother me. I do have some critiques here though. First is that they pretty much underused all of the creatures in the Fallout world. You know, there's lots of shots of characters walking through various areas of the wasteland, whether it's deserts or deserts. But they just walk unimpeded, you know. I have returned, because of watching the show, to a playthrough Fallout 4 that I started a while ago, but kind of stopped. And when I was playing, I was walking for 10 minutes, and I ran into 6 rad scorpions and 2 deathclaws. Why were there never any rad scorpions or any other kind of wildlife from Fallout in the show? We get some rad roaches, I think that's what they are. And that one creature from the water, but I think that's new just for the show, I'm not entirely sure. Plus, like, they wait until the end of the last episode to even show a Deathclaw skull. Like, you want me to believe that none of these characters would have ran into one, but how good the action scenes are in this show, a Deathclaw fight would have been really cool to see. On a related note, the other factions in the world of Fallout are also underused. The only ones in the show are Raiders and the Brotherhood of Steel. They mentioned the Enclave a few times, and they said that Scientist Guy was one of them. And of course they mentioned the NCR, but that's really it. Where are the mutants, super mutants, the Railroad, the Minutemen, the Institute, and so on? Why don't we ever see synths anywhere? Plus, on a smaller note, where's the variety of weaponry? They mostly stick to projectile weapons. You know, like the pistols from Fallout 4, and the big machine guns that the Brotherhood carries, and the miniguns. But come on, where's the laser weapons? You see one carried by a guard in wherever Scientist Man lived, but no one actually fires one in the show. Another thing that probably is a nitpick is, why is it that only the Brotherhood of Steel has power armor? In the games, especially in Fallout 4, you can just stumble across power armor in the wild. And it's not just the T60 either. You can find T45, T60, and I think it's XO1. Yeah, sure, maybe it's rare to come across power armor in the wild, but it's possible, yet we never come across a single suit in the wild like that. The other thing, you never actually have to see these people like for example, our ghoul. He just never runs out of ammo. Also, why is he the only one that has a special gun? But he never runs out of ammo. Even if he uses his ammo, he had an ammo belt across him. And sure, during a fight it would empty, but then the next time he fought, it was full, And sure, maybe they don't have to show us him scavenging for ammo, but same with Lucy. She just found that pistol, which I think is the 10mm pistol from Fallout 4. She just finds it. Where did she find the ammo? Where did she continue to find the ammo for it? But she just always had the ammo for it. But, I mean, outside of those things, I really did enjoy my time watching this show. I did. Again, I don't really have the Fallout knowledge to know lore implications, but I just really enjoyed myself. Season 1 of Fallout is a good and enjoyable show that I can recommend. So that's all I got. If you like this kind of content, feel free to subscribe. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.